Hi, I'm Beth Hildenbrand, and this is All Booked Up. Tonight, our special guest is Kim Fielding. Hi, Kim. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for inviting me.
I don't know what that noise was.
Oh, I think that was on my end. You know what? Let me close.
Oh,
There we go.
Kim, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself before we get started?
I'd love to. So my name is Kim Fielding, and I write. I write in a lot of genres. I write a lot of spec fic, so horror, fantasy, science fiction, a little bit of everything. I write gay romance, also in a lot of genres. I think my first book came out in 2011, so I've been writing for a while. My most recent book, I think I've lost track, which is terrible, but I think I have 36 novels and a bunch of novellas and short stories. So that's really exciting for me. So I really enjoy writing. I live on the West Coast. I grew up in Oregon. I have been exiled elsewhere for a long time, but I just moved back to Oregon about 2 months ago. So I'm happy to be back home, and enjoying all the things of Portland, which is a great city. So, and it's been one of the inspirations for some of my writing. A lot of my books take place around here.
I am from Pennsylvania.
Ooh. I've only been to Pennsylvania once in my life. I went to Philadelphia for a conference, and that's it.
It's boring, so you're not missing much.
I enjoyed Philadelphia. It was a great food city.
Oh yeah, Philadelphia is. You got to have the cheesecakes and cheesecakes. You know where my mind goes. Cheesesteaks.
I don't eat mammals, so I skipped the cheesesteaks, but I still found plenty of things to eat. So,
have you had the whoopie pies?
Yes.
Okay, everybody's got to have a whoopie pie. Yes, whoopie pies are love the whoopie pies. And what else? The apple fritters, and when the summertime comes, you got to get the peach fritters. See, I'm a pastry girl. If you can't tell,
too.
I go to say cheesesteak, and it comes out cheesecake.
I'd rather have cheesecake any day. So that's fine.
Oh, I could live off cheesecake. I have cheesecake ice cream down in the freezer right now.
Good.
I should weigh just like 6 million pounds, but I don't know how I don't. I really don't. I just don't eat a lot. But when I do eat, I want sweets. Give me the sweet treats, please.
And I bake, so I which is dangerous. So.
Well, that's how I am. I would rather bake than cook.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It just, unfortunately, I don't have the time these days for baking. And today I finally thought of my next book. I was struggling, and I have decided what my next book is going to be. And I'm just all excited over it. I can't wait until I have fed the family tonight so I can dig into the new book.
Oh, what a great place to be. That's so fun to be.
I know, right? It's like, yes, I've got it. This is going to be so awesome. Yes, it's like just,
That's exciting.
Better than drugs. Not that I would know how drugs are, but I imagine this has got to be better than that. Nina, I'm trying to get used to the new lighting here in the new studio. Nina's from Florida. Yes, lucky brat. She would rather, what in the world does that say? She would rather cook than bake. Okay, Nina. Well, we'll move in with you. We'll bake and you can cook. And then
that sounds good to me.
We'll have it all rounded out. We'll just get a nice big house somewhere wonderful, and with the cooking and the baking.
And we'll just eat and write.
Yes. Eat and write. Sounds like a plan. Okay, so now that I have taken us totally far afield yet again, that's what I am known for. If anybody can get off track, it's me. Your new book, Rook's Time, I loved it. I told you that it's just so much fun, and it's a time travel story, and I love time travel stories. I do. I personally could not write one because all that the what's it called, the paradigm where you meet yourself and you're not allowed to meet yourself. And oh my God, I couldn't do that. I couldn't pull that off. At the one point where he's chasing himself and doesn't know he's chasing himself. I love that part when he realizes that he was actually chasing himself. I'm like, oh yeah, okay, here we go. That's the part that would get me. That's why I could never attempt to write a time travel book.
I didn't go into this intending to write time travel because it is hard. And when I realized that that's where it was going to go, I mean, I put up a fight, kind of kicking and screaming, but that's where it was going to go, and it was hard. But it also let me do some really fun things. So I kind of got past the kicking, the tantrumy part, and I got to the point where, okay, I'll have some fun with it.
Well, you did a really good job because, like I said, I couldn't have pulled it off. And it was fun and it was interesting. And I loved the Walt Whitman and the Freud references all throughout the book. We're big on Walt Whitman here in Pennsylvania.
Understandable. And he's one of my favorite poets. So,
the Walt Whitman Bridge. I think there's pictures of me as a child at the Walt Whitman Bridge. My grandparents came from Indiana, and I remember, they were big on Walt Whitman. And they came to visit, and then so they had to have pictures of me at the Walt Whitman Bridge. And I love the little references to Walt Whitman and Freud, and Crow. There was Simeon and Crow.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm hoping Crow's story is, because it's a series, the Carnival of Mysteries,
right.
Carnival of Mysteries and Secrets, the series. So is Crow does he have his own story in this?
And actually, his was the first book, and so his book is Crow's Fate, and that one does not involve time travel, but it involves a lot of distance travel because he and Simeon end up wandering back and forth across the west from between Illinois and Washington State several times as they're being chased by demons. And
Ooh, now see, I thought that Crow must have come first because I was thinking I'm going to have to read this one and go back and see what happened. So that will be my next book buy. I have to get this one because you fall in love with Crow as well in this book, and so you have to find out what happened. What Crow's story was. That's why I had to ask. Please tell me there's a Crow story because I got to know.
And there will eventually be a third book too. So I haven't written it yet, but it's.
Oh yay! I was, and I liked the references to the Alice in Wonderland too, as you went through the book. And it was a really fun story, and it was interesting, and it was enlightening. You had some really good, just things to learn as you went along. I like that when a book can teach me things.
That's great because my day job is I'm a professor, so
okay, that would explain it. That would explain that then. I like to be able to learn things when I read.
Not that I want to write a textbook or something, but I learn stuff as I'm writing because I'm a nerd and I like to do the research, and I come across stuff and go, oh, that's cool, and then I have to put it in, and so so if I can teach through my writing, that's a bonus.
But oh my goodness, my eyes cannot be getting that bad. That will be awesome. I need to read this book. Yes, Nina, you do. It was a really good book. You're going to enjoy it. Nina is usually my question girl. She has a million questions as we go through here. Okay, I went blank. Give me a second. I lost track of where we were as I was trying to read. I'm also legally blind, so I have on contacts and wearing glasses. But I don't know. Tonight I'm just not seeing well. Yeah, usually I see better than this. Um, your next book, do we get a little hint of does it pick up off this book?
It picks up off this book. It will probably, hopefully, not be time travel, and it involves a character who's introduced in the second book, which is Bran.
Oh, the brother.
Yeah, the brother. So it will be a redemption story because Bran Bran
He
is a little
was,
messed up.
yeah, he was kind of a butthead,
Yeah, he kind of is.
to put it nicely.
Yeah.
He was a bit messed up, but yeah, you can't really blame him for it because of what happened. So I don't want to give any spoilers. Yes, you can't really blame Bran. You know, he was a selfish little twit.
Yep.
But there was reasons that he was a selfish little twit.
Yep.
And I think, a lot of us would probably have done what Bran did, given the circumstance.
I
So,
think so. Yeah.
it would have taken a real strong person like Simeon to say, no, I'm not going to do that. You would have had to have a real strong character to not want to go back in time and say, I want the chance I missed.
Right. And I think, the difference is Simeon has Crow, so he's got that kind of emotional support, and Bran
Yes.
has never had that. So
No, he had to do it alone, and on his own. So yeah, you got to cut Bran a little bit of slack for being a butthead. You really do.
But he was a really big butthead, so
he was.
It'll be fun to redeem him.
Yeah, it will. It will. I bet you'll have a good time with that. And I'm glad that he's going to get a chance to be redeemed.
Yeah. I love redemption stories. So.
Oh, who doesn't? Those are the best.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did that with Cain. Cain deserved to be redeemed. I mean, God didn't think so, but I did.
Yeah.
I think everybody's worth redemption.
I think so too.
Okay, do we have questions here, Nina? This is real. It just must be my lighting in here. I'm gonna have to get stronger lighting. In the new, this is like my second interview in the new room. So yeah, I'm gonna need stronger lighting.
I had to set up in here since it's a new house for me.
Yeah, I've only had the room done for about a week, and this is only my second interview. I'm going to need stronger lighting. I can see it already. What inspired you to do this series of books?
Well, I think a couple of things. I had a plot bunny for years in my file involving carnivals. And so it had been kind of sitting there, and I'd never quite gotten to it, but I really wanted to. And then R.A. McKay was organizing a series, a multi-author series, and invited me to join, and it involved a magic carnival, and that was perfect. So that was my sort of entree into it. And I'm often kind of inspired by like a mood. And so the first book in this series, I'd been reading a fair bit of Ray Bradbury. And so I was kind of channeling Ray Bradbury, and that kind of, when you think about carnivals, I think about Ray Bradbury anyways, which is kind of spooky stuff. And so for the first book, there was that. And the second book, it was, some more Victorian era stuff, since most of it takes place in the Victorian era. So American Victorian too, but, Whitman, but Freud and Lewis Carroll, and, some of that stuff was kind of that mood kind of going on in the background. But also both books, I play a lot with Greek tragedies, which is fun, to throw in some Sophocles too, So for me, I guess it was a lot of those kinds of mood stuff that was going on.
Well, yeah, you did so well with it, and I adored it. I really did. Let's see, more questions. Describe your writing spot. Do you have a special place that you?
I can write almost anywhere. I do the bulk of my writing sitting at the kitchen table because I like a little bit of something going on while I'm writing. And in my old house, sitting at the kitchen table, I could look out at the backyard, and there was a lot of birds and things. Now, in my new house, I'm looking out at a fairly busy street, my new neighborhood is a really fun neighborhood. Those of you who know Portland, it's the Woodstock neighborhood, and you never know what's going to go down the street. Last night at 10 p.m., there was a lighted musical bicycle parade right in front of
Oh,
my house. So I'm facing the window so I can kind of see as people and weird. But there's somebody in the neighborhood who rides one of those really really tall bicycles, and sometimes he rides by, and I just love seeing what goes by. So that's my primary spot. But I also travel a lot. And so I do a lot of writing in hotels and airports and places like that.
oh, you're lucky you can sit. We went to Texas and I thought, oh, this is going to be great. You know, I can take my computer anywhere and write. I just sat there and stared at the screen.
Mm,
I mean, maybe if I did it more, it would be easier.
maybe.
But it was our first time away like that, and
Oh yeah.
I froze. Nothing would come. I wrote like 3 sentences
Oh
and
no.
couldn't do it. So because it was always my dream. I said I want to get like I want to get a camper. I just want to get out and hit the road, and I can write from anywhere. And then I was like, oh my God, I'm getting my dream. We're traveling, and I can't write.
Yeah.
But that was in a hotel, so maybe if we had the camper and it was a daily thing,
Yeah,
I
once
could
maybe
get
you got
into it.
in the
Yeah.
routine. And for me it's like it's a treat. Last October we did a yacht cruise in Croatia, and we spent a week
Ooh.
with like 40 people on a yacht island hopping. And sometimes I would sit there on the deck with my laptop and write. And I mean, if you ask me what my perfect life would be, that's it. There was kind of stuff going on around me, so I wasn't just kind of sitting all locked up, but but it was great.
Oh, it sounds wonderful.
Yeah, yeah, it was really nice.
My last son is a senior this year, so it's like okay, I've got a year to be stuck home, and then after this, it's like hitting the road. Yes, it's finally time that I can you know uh, get out of the bird cage and set myself free. And
That's wonderful. Because for me,
I've
travel,
been waiting for this.
yeah, yeah, travel is what I just love to do it. And my kids, one of my kids is a senior in college, and the other just finished her master's degree, and so I infected them with the the travel bug, which is really great because we've traveled with them since they were babies, and it's a lot of
When
fun.
I was young, my father was on the board of directors of a of well, they made motorhomes and things, and so I was constantly
Oh,
going
fun.
places with him. We were always somewhere, and it was just me and my dad. My mom had left, so he took me everywhere he went, and I traveled all the time. And that's a great way to grow up, just
Yeah.
taking off with your dad, going here, going there, going everywhere. And I miss that so much. And I miss that I couldn't do it so much with the kids, but I had 5 boys. That's a whole lot to
Oh,
haul
yeah.
around.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a little harder with 5 kids than with 2.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm looking forward to being able to travel like that again because I definitely missed it over the years.
That's great. My
And
my younger daughter, she spent last semester studying abroad. She was in Copenhagen, but
ooh,
she had a week, which was great. I got to go visit her, which was wonderful. But she had a week off, and she went to the UK, and she spent a few days in London. And by coincidence, she stayed just a few blocks from the London Foundling Home Museum, which was one of the
oh,
inspirations for Rook's time. So she went there for me and took pictures and took the guided tour, and it was really great getting my kid doing the research for me since I couldn't pop off to London at the time. So
oh, that's just fabulous. Oh, we have Natasha Hooks.
hi, Natasha.
Thank you for coming to the show. Um, it's good to have you. I'm sorry, I'm getting dry. Um, let's see. If you could meet any of your characters, what would you ask them?
Oh wow, that's a good. Well, I think if I could meet Simeon, I would ask him. One of his he has this philosophy of trying to find the joys in life, even when things are rough, and he kind of loses that a little bit in Rook's time, and that's part of his struggle. And so I would ask him how he does that. What's his process for finding his joys in life, and how does he sort of maintain that really positive outlook when things are rough, because he had a really rough childhood, and so how was he able to get there?
I envy those people.
Yeah.
I let myself get depressed too easily.
It's easy to
I wish
do.
I could. I wish I could always, look for the silver lining and find my happy place that easily.
Yeah.
Okay, next we have. What was your hardest scene to write?
Hardest scene to write in this book. In general, the time travel stuff was rough. Keeping track of the different things. There is the scene you had mentioned where he's chasing himself. That was hard because early on, you see it from his earlier self's standpoint, and then later on, the same thing happens from the later self's standpoint. And so, sort of from a technical standpoint, keeping track of the two Simeons as I'm writing, so that the reader can keep track of the two. I mean, you can't just say Simeon did this, Simeon did that, because they're both doing it. So the technical aspects and remembering where each self's kind of mindset was at the different time, and thinking about what the scene would look like from the same person at two different points in time. So it was fun, but that was a challenge.
That's when I say I would lose it. I would be like, okay. What was he doing then? And what was he doing then? And what was he doing? Okay.
Yeah. What did he know and what did he not know? Yeah.
Okay, let's see. What do you need around you to keep you focused? Is there any certain elements? Do you need music? Do you need, I don't know, do you have a writing pen? I have certain pens I have to use. It's a weird thing. I have to use those erasable pens. It's a thing with me. Do you have to, is there any certain writer thing?
There really isn't. I'm lucky in that my writing is flexible. I think I need to have something to drink, So as long as I have something, and it's usually, I'm drinking ginger ale right now, but it's usually tea, either iced or hot, depending on the season, or maybe Diet Coke. So as long as I have my laptop, and I have to have a list. I have to have a piece of paper with a pen or pencil, so I can have a list, because sometimes just writing things down by hand and then crossing things off works better for me than having it electronic. So if it's things I need to keep track of, or things I suddenly think of that I need to come back to or deal with later, I like to have that nearby. And
I do that too.
I like to have it on paper.
I'll think of something that, oh my God, I should have added this.
Yeah.
Or hey, I need to go back and fix this. So I always have, the little list close by.
Yeah.
To remind me, or I'll get to a point and I'll think, okay, I need to go add something.
Yeah.
So that this makes sense.
Right.
And I'll have to write it down, and then so I can go back to it. I do that too. Okay. That's a thing. Okay.
Yeah. And I think, I don't know about your process, but I generally start at the beginning and write through, and don't allow myself to go back and tinker until I've finished that first draft. And so having that list is really important.
It is, because yes, that's pretty much how I do it too. If I try and go back, I find out I'll end up almost starting over.
Mm-hmm.
And then totally changing the story. And then I'll get so frustrated with it. It just turns into a big muck.
Yeah.
And it just bogs me down.
Yeah. That was the phrase I would use exactly, is I get really bogged down, and then it's like, well, I'm never going to finish this thing because I'm stuck back here again. And so it just works better for me to go through and then go back and.
Yes. So I have learned, you just write it down to be gone back to later, and keep pushing through from where you are until you finish the book. Otherwise, you just, it becomes a big mucky muck.
Yeah.
terrible, terrible, terrible. I have done that to where I have had to walk away from it for 2 or 3 weeks because I have become so frustrated
Mm-hmm.
that I almost just want to say, I'm done with it. This is never going to be finished.
Mm-hmm. Well, because you feel like you're not making any forward progress, and then that is really frustrating.
It is. And then I'll finally say, okay, you know what? I'm just going to leave that. And then I'm going to start from where I left off and finish it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll go back and start at the beginning again and work my way through fixing things. It will really mess you up, I think, if you try and do it that way. If you start messing around with things before you have finished the first draft, it will really just mess you up.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So warning. We're sending out a warning to anybody who tries to do this. Don't.
I think it depends. I think some people, it's really fascinating how everybody's got different writing processes that work for them. And I know some people who can write pieces of a story, like they'll write a chapter here and a chapter there. And I don't feel like writing this part, so I'll skip ahead. And I mean, that would drive me nuts, but it works really well for them. So
yeah, I had somebody do that. Just told me the other day that is how she writes. She just has little pieces of this, that, and the other all sitting around, and then she just puts them all together. And I'm like, how can you do that?
Yeah, it would not work for me. And I've read people I know who write like this, and they're wonderful writers. So it obviously works for them, but it would not work for me. So.
Oh no, I couldn't. I could not do that. I could not just pick up a piece here or there and then try and string them up. Nope. Don't have the mindset for that. They try to put them all together like a jigsaw puzzle.
Yeah. Much more linear. So.
Yeah, definitely. Let's see. How do you handle negative reviews?
Well, when I initially see them, of course, but you can't help that emotional reaction to something, you've really poured your heart and soul and a lot of time into. But I try and take a step back. When it's really devastating, sometimes I go and I read really bad reviews of like amazing books that I know are wonderful. I mean, like classics. And there's always somebody writing a terrible review, and I'm like, okay, that makes me feel better. People hated that too. So I do that. Some of them make me laugh. My favorite review of all time was for one of my first books, which involves a guy he's an architect who's also a werewolf, and he's kind of a hipster architect werewolf, which is silly, but I had fun with it. And so he's dealing with being a werewolf, and he falls in love with his very rustic next door neighbor, and so it's a romance, and there's a werewolf, and somebody but he's also an architect, so he's designing houses, and a reviewer complained that the book did not discuss sustainable sewage treatment. Yeah. Because that's exactly what everybody wants to read about in a romance, and I just it did not. Someday I'll put it in a book, but it did not discuss sustainable sewage treatment. So reviews like that make me laugh. And so sometimes, the review, if after I calm down, I realize that the reviewer, a negative review was valid, that they made some valid points, and also that, reading is a subjective thing. So, there's things that other people love that I don't, and that's a me problem, or, so I do have an initial kind of, but then you have to be prepared to deal with it. Not everybody loves everything.
Well, I have to say I'm not, gung-ho on sustainable sewage.
Yeah.
Yikes. Some people just will have to find something, and that was his something, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, apparently that really bothered that person for what, they had a thing about sustainable sewage treatment, and that bothered them. And I mean, I've been reading books where some little thing has just caught me, something that probably wouldn't bother anybody else on the planet. And so it's never been sustainable sewage treatment, but other things, and I can understand that.
I think that's the best one I've heard so far.
Yeah, that was my all-time favorite.
I had a friend, she writes children's books, and she does it so well that, my granddaughter loves her books. I will walk in my granddaughter's house and she will grab my phone and want to read these books. which I think is a great thing. And uh, she said to me one day, she said, I got a 1-star review on one of my books. And I thought, how is that even possible? These are children's books, and they're sweet and kids love them. And I was like, just don't even pay attention to it, honey. Don't pay
Yeah.
attention to it. Because when I see that my granddaughter, the first thing she does is want to read your books. You just got to blow it off. Don't even let it hurt you. And the only way I think I would give a 1-star review is if every word was misspelled. I just can't imagine being that cruel to someone, because that's all a 1-star review is. I think it's just cruelty.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot imagine why anybody would even comprehend doing something like that. It's just cruelty or jealousy or just plain meanness. So, yeah, there are people who just are vicious in this world. But, yeah, some reviewers, if I get an honest review and someone honestly didn't like the book, I'll take that to heart and I'll look what I did wrong. How can I make this better? How can I fix this? But personally, I usually review by the story itself. If you have a few editing blubs, I'm not going to worry about that. Not all indie writers can afford editors and formatters and all the rest of it. So I tend to overlook things like that. If you tell me a really good story, that's what I want. That's why I read books, because I want to read a good story. So that's what I enjoy. That's what books are about. They're to tell people a good story.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, well, there's my little review mantra that I tell when we have review questions. So next question is, let's see. How do you want to be an author? Explain that one, Nina. I guess, why do you want to be an author?
Oh, my screen that's coming up is, how did you know you want to be an author?
Okay, well then, yeah, yours looks better than mine.
Who knows how these things work?
Oh, okay, how did you know you wanted to be an author?
I've always wanted to be an author. I mean, like, since I was, one of my earliest memories was being at Montessori school when I was like 3, and I had a piece of paper in front of me and a pen, and I was making squiggles, and I thought I was writing, and I remember thinking, I'm writing, and it was just random squiggles. So I think I've always wanted to write. I used to write short stories, bad ones, I'm sure, but when I was a kid, and but I always thought it never felt like an attainable goal. It always felt like just like, oh yeah, it's something else, like being queen or something,
Yep.
And then so some years ago now, somehow I fell into writing fan fiction. It was Buffy the Vampire fan fiction, and it was mostly Spike Slash, and it was really fun, and it was also good practice for writing. And what I found was, I could write, and people could enjoy what I was reading. And one of my very first fan fiction stories was over 100,000 words, and for some reason I'd had it in my head that, I can never write a novel, but I mean, that's a pretty long novel right there. So I wrote a lot of fan fiction, and it was really fun. And then I heard about National Novel Writing Month, and where, for those of you who are unfamiliar with it, the idea is that you write a novel in 30 days, 50,000 words in 30 days. And I thought, okay, I'll try this. It's the month of November. And I did it. And, once you do that, it's like, oh, okay. So I had to overcome a lot of sort of psychological hurdles to actually get to being an author, but I'd wanted to as long as I can remember.
That's fantastic. And Spike was always my favorite.
He's not in this room. I have a little plastic Spike doll that travels with me. So he's got his own little tiny passport. He's been around to like 20 countries.
You're a wee little puppet man. Yeah. Do you remember that one? Yes. Oh, it still cracks me up.
Some of the Buffy fan fiction, I know some of those people are authors, and I mean it's beautiful writing, and as a writer, it was a really great way to practice things and get feedback. Because when you write, you're sort of in a vacuum, especially initially. You're writing and you don't know what. But with fan fiction, you get pretty fast feedback, and you can see what works and what doesn't work, and kind of tie into this writing community. My editor, that's how I met her, was through that. And I mean, she's a really close friend now, and she's a professional editor, so that's wonderful too. And that's how I met her. So
Oh, that's great. How it just amazes me how things, just kind
they
of.
fall into place. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Well, I guess that's about time, hon. Oh, so this has been great. You are wonderful.
Well, thank you.
And I'm glad we got to learn all these things about you. And I just totally, the whole Buffy thing is great. I love Buffy. I do. I can't tell you, when I was younger, how many times I was Buffy for Halloween. I mean,
Yeah.
embarrassing my kids to death.
Sort of being a parent, isn't it?
Oh, yes. But, they put up with it. So, next time you have a book release, feel free to, hit us up and come back on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here tonight. And please go to my Facebook page and put your links on so everybody can see the show and then easily find your links. I will, if you want to hang on right after the show, and I can tell you how to get the link to the YouTube for this.
Perfect.
And, Nina says, thank you for coming.
Thank you, Nina.
So thank you, Nina, for just being my everything, keeping me going. And thank you for everybody for watching. Thank you, Kim, for coming. And we'll say bye-bye for now and see you Monday. Yes, when we have Mary Woldering. And good night. Bye-bye. Mwah.